Welcome to update 0.7 for That Crazy Adventure. Another day, another title update. And this time around, we're going to be taking a look at Moshpit, as well as some balance changes that should help the game substantially and make everything just generally more fun to play. 0.7 is pretty good, so let's jump into it. And unlike last time, I'm going to start right away with the biggest change to the game, and that of course is Moshpit itself. So far, my general impressions of Moshpit are very positive, and I've been having a really good time with it. Now that being said, of course, naturally I'm biased because, well, I helped make the game fun, so I'm having a good time with it. I would hope. As it stands right now, Moshpit is a more casual mode that you can just jump in and play. It doesn't have the same stakes or pressure as 1v1s, but it still has some structure unlike main game. So if your goal is to just jump in and play the game and hit some people, here's your game mode. As it stands right now, the mode has 3 maps that you could play on, as well as 4 game modes that you can play on those maps. Those game modes are Rumble, which is effectively just a free-for-all, where the person with the most damage wins. Team Deathmatch, where the team with the most kills wins. Arrow Shuffle, which plays like Oddball from Halo, where there's an arrow on the map, you grab it, and the longer you hold it, the more points you get. Most points wins. And finally, Juggernaut, where one player is souped up and they need to fight against the rest of the lobby. In terms of my favorites, I think 100% my favorite mode to play right now is Rumble. There's just something about the free-for-all aspect that I really enjoy. I have a tendency of doing well in these more casual game modes because I'm a sweaty loser, and so people tend to go out of their way to kill me. But in game modes like Rumble, I can just jump over and run to another fight and lead those people over there and start this massive clusterfuck, and I think that's really fun. It feels like probably the most basic mode, which is kind of ironic that I find it hands down the most enjoyable out of everything else available. My second favorite mode is Team Deathmatch for kind of the same reasons that I enjoy Rumble, but I feel like half the time I play Team Deathmatch, it's just a total blowout one way or the other, and one team doesn't have a chance whatsoever. I think this is caused by either people leaving, which causes teams to be imbalanced, or people AFKing, which causes teams to be imbalanced, because if you're out one teammate in Team Deathmatch, you're in a lot of trouble. It's one of the reasons that before the game mode launched, I insisted that they make it so if there's an odd number of players in the game, you can't vote for Team Deathmatch. If you've ever noticed while playing Rumble that you can't vote TDM, that's because there's not enough players to make even teams, because this mode just flat out isn't fun at all when the teams aren't even. Now, second to last on my list of enjoyable game modes is probably going to be Arrow Shuffle, but Arrow Shuffle, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, is almost tied with Juggernaut, because after playing these 2 modes substantially, I'm just really not a huge fan of either of them. I think they fall too far into the casual RNG disaster and stray too far away from my sweaty loser nature of wanting to actually fight people, which is probably why I don't enjoy them. I'm sure there's someone else's cup of tea, just not really mine. In Arrow Shuffle, there seems to be a tendency of people just mashing ragdolls in order to stop you from getting the arrow, and everyone being in one place, as well as some people either directly going out of their way to kill one person because they don't like them, or just not understanding how the game mode works and trying to play a free-for-all when it's not that at all. And I feel like while I'm playing, I'm just chasing after someone, and while I'm chasing after them, I'm getting pelted from behind by projectiles and AoE moves and stuff of people trying and failing to hit the person with the arrow. I don't know. Overall, I don't have that much fun with it. It's nowhere near as fun as TDM and Rumble to me, but it's there for some variety. And then finally, Juggernaut. The worst mode hands down, and unfortunately, at the time of recording this, the most played. Why is this the most played? Well, because there's a bug right now which gives every single person who is on the survivor team, if they win, the first place rewards for everything else. And not only that, but the Juggernaut is currently basically impossible to win as. Admittedly, there was an update like today at 1 a.m., which made it so that way the Juggernaut doesn't take stun anymore. And so that might help the Juggernaut actually win some games. But when I was recording it last night, yeah, basically impossible for the Juggernaut to win, and people want to get the new rewards that were added, so they just pick Juggernaut over and over and over again because you have the highest chance of getting rewards, you get too many rewards because we missed the fact that it gives everyone the first place reward, and you kind of get the idea. As for the mode itself, I don't know. I have just always hated Juggernaut. I hated Juggernaut in TB2, and I kind of hate Juggernaut here too. So it kind of is what it is. Now, of course, Moshpit also had its fair share of issues when it came out because reality is we can't really test and fix everything. One of the things that we missed, which has been fixed, but good lord, was it annoying, was people being able to use King Crimson in the lobby right before the game started and send everybody back. Unfortunately, I was in here recording. So, to this guy, say goodbye, you're getting banned. Whoops. But yeah, that was a real problem. There was also a problem that we knew about before we launched the mode, but couldn't figure out the cause of it because Peter, the owner of the game, wasn't online in order to jump in to figure out what the issue was that would cause the game to never actually start the game. You get teleported in and it would say, starting the game. I got lucky, I was playing last night really late, and I had the issue pop up. I just DM'd Peter, he jumped into the server, and bada boom, bada bam. The issue should be fixed, at least this specific one. But other than those things, Moshpit is in a pretty good state. I think that it's fun to play, and that's kind of the whole point of the game mode. Later on, it'll have more of a point, and some people have already picked up on the fact that if you win or get top 3 in any of the modes in Moshpit, you'll get a new item called a mirror shard. Now, I know what mirror shards do, but I can't tell you that. So just know that the mirror shards will have their uses in due time. I've seen some people, or more than a few people, that are upset that the new game mode is useless, or it doesn't do anything. Guys, the point of the new game mode was for you to play it and have fun. Like, I'm just at a loss here. Not everything has to absolutely always all the time have a direct, like, gameplay impact. And not only that, but it does. It's the best way of getting ranks now, pretty much hands down. It gives you a fair amount of money, and you get the new items so that way when the update that has the stuff in it drops, you can be ahead of the game. So yeah, I'm pretty lost on the whole logic of the new update is useless because the new game mode doesn't give you anything you can use. Like, you will be able to use it, just not yet. The whole point of giving you stuff now is so that way, if you're playing, we'll reward players who are playing now when the update comes out so they can get into it right away. I don't know. I'm harping on this too long. Let's move on. That was the game mode. Now we're gonna move on to balancing as well as some of the just quality of life things that have been done. In terms of things to note, the Whitesnake to Seamoon quest damage was reduced to 10,800, I believe down from 20,000 or something ridiculous. I still think 10,000 is a bit overkill. That takes forever, but it's a hell of a lot better than 20,000, so I'll take what I can get. A whole lot of visual effects and stuff have been updated, which is pretty cool. The shop sell prices for a bunch of items, which is something that I talked about to some people in the suggestions channel a little while ago on the TCA Discord, have finally been adjusted, with all spec items now selling for 5,000, and the money bags you get from chests selling for a little bit less, since these were just the best way of getting money hands down. You'll also be able to now hold 2 of every boss item instead of 1, so if you run into a boss item in main game, you can pick it up and then spawn a boss instead of just having to stare at it and not be able to do anything. Should make raid bosses more frequent and less frustrating when you pull an item from a chest and you just can't do anything with it and it voids itself. Now, in terms of balance changes, there have been some changes made to the anti-gank system as well as the barrage cooldown, which was decreased to 10 seconds. The barrage cooldown was decreased mostly because in the new game mode where there's a whole bunch of people, you can get barraged and then you would have 15 seconds of not being able to do anything and get barraged by like 7 other people. That was annoying, so it was brought down by 5 seconds to hopefully alleviate that a little bit. And in terms of the anti-gank, if you didn't already know, if you barrage someone, they can't get hit by outside damage. But prior to this update, even if you let go of the barrage, the person was invincible all the way up until their stun ended, which basically meant that team combos off of barrage were impossible. Obviously, this has had a pass made to it, which should hopefully make it so that if you're barraging someone and you let go at the correct time, they'll be able to get hit by another move. There was some weird thing I noticed with time stops, which I had Peter fix, which was that if there was a time stop anywhere on the map, your time stop would not be able to work. So if someone all the way on the mountain used time stop and you were by the cafe and you pressed your time stop key, it just wouldn't do anything. It was the same thing with time stop beatdowns. So if someone Star Platinum the World beat down someone 3 miles away, your time stop just wouldn't work. That's now been resolved, so if you're not in a time stop, you should be able to time stop without issue. Hamon had some changes, most notably to its Sunlight Yellow Overdrive, which is a move that if you see it getting nerfed, you're probably blown away because you thought this move was terrible, but I can assure you, at the highest level of play, it was incredibly broken. It's had a 0.3 second windup added to it, and we've made it so that way the damage per tick is increased, but it drains your Hamon faster. So basically, it does more damage quicker, but also drains your bar quicker. The problem with old Sunlight Yellow Overdrive was you were getting hit by it and you just kind of had to sit there as you got punched over and over again, and it just wasn't fun. So we made some changes. In terms of Scarlet, the end lag was decreased and it no longer burns you without the mastered upgrade. I have my own kind of gripes with this. I don't really think that the end lag decreased was enough because it still has significantly more than a lot of the other spec block breaks. And if you do unlock the burn upgrade, it does like some ridiculous 30 something damage, which for a spec block break that's basically guaranteed off of a singular M1 if you don't have a counter is kind of insane, but I'll take what I can get. Our good old top tier friend Star Platinum the World is way more stomachable now, and in my opinion, more fun to play. Before, Star Platinum the World felt really lame, and I think this update has helped make it feel better to play and better to play against. The first was that the cooldown for the world, your time stop, was increased by 15 seconds, which makes sense because you could kind of just spam this out like no tomorrow, and against people that had no TS resist, it was a nightmare. The biggest change here is probably the counter though, which got way shorter, but also basically provides you nothing other than winning a trade if you set it off. The counter feels way better to use, and it's less annoying to fight against, because if you get countered, you don't just get beat down for free. Bearing Shot became a true block break, where it wasn't before, but it might as well have been. If you had Arm Strength 3, then you could block it, but if you didn't, you couldn't. 90% of people didn't have Arm Strength 3, which made it a true block break against them, but then awkwardly you'd run into someone every once in a while that would have Arm Strength 3, you'd shoot expecting a block break, and they'd block it, and you'd be like, what the hell was that? So that's been done away with, and then it got nerfed as well, obviously, I would hope, making it cancelable, so you can't just spam an uncancelable instant block break that stuns right next to your opponent, and the stun on the move was reduced to make it not combo into beatdown. Thank God. And the final change is that Speed Blitz became a real move. The end lag was increased, but it's blockable now instead of parryable. So now you can throw this out without expecting to get parried and instantly murdered. Now, where Star Platinum the World kind of got some good and some bad, Crazy Diamond mostly is the biggest loser of this update. Bearing Shot got the same changes as Star Platinum, which probably makes it a better move overall, but Army Knife Impale was basically butchered. This used to be a stupidly good close range tool because it was really fast, so you basically couldn't react to it, and if you hit it, it would combo extend, but the opponent would have an opportunity to use a move or block. So it was this sort of weird move where it had a lot of unique characteristics, and it still has those, but it's a lot harder to actually land it. The range on it was increased, but how much that's really going to matter at the end of the day, I don't know, since the lack of windup was really what carried the move. Your form wall cooldown was increased because 6 seconds was stupid. The stand jump cooldown was increased to 25 seconds, which I'm not so sure I agree with, and I think that was actually maybe a mistake on Peter's part, because I wanted the stand jump cooldowns for Star Platinum and the World to be messed with, because they didn't need it. They have time skip, Crazy Diamond doesn't. So maybe this will get reverted, not entirely sure. And then the big one, of course, is Ground Restoration, or Rock Trap, whatever you want to call it. It's cancelable now, so you can't just spam your Rock Trap out of stun. The cooldown's been increased, the overall stun's been reduced, and finally, the victims no longer take knockback, so you won't have those instances where people are just like flying away when you're trying to hit them. It's a pretty massive nerf, and it's gonna hurt Crazy Diamond a lot. And the last thing on here is that the rage counter lasts a little bit longer. There were some rumblings about maybe making this give you a speed boost. I think that would have been a good idea. I think it's a shame it didn't make into this update, but it might later. You never know. King Crimson's next on the list, and it had its Epitaph cooldown reduced, but the catch is it doesn't stun anymore. This means no more free Epitaph into Impale, but you're going to have to worry about Epitaph more often because the King Crimson's going to have it active more often. Your Impale got a new animation, some new sound effects, and an increased windup. For some reason, Impale didn't really match Beatdowns despite being a pretty similar move, and now it should. And the last thing on King Crimson was King Strike, which was completely removed. I saw some people in the game itself, in main game, as well as in the mosh pit, being like, where did King Strike go? It was such a good move. Not really. King Strike caused more problems than it was good for, and so it was taken away. Basically, King Strike was all kinds of jank. It could put people through walls, it came out frame 1, so it could be used as a combo breaker on a stand that already has a frame 1 counter, and at the end of the day, King Crimson has like 100 moves as it is. All of them are good, and all of them apply pressure. So we just decided to axe this one because it should make King Crimson have maybe a little bit more downtime, and less just mash buttons, mash buttons, mash buttons. Six Pistols got 2 changes, one of which I think is really, really going to help it, and we'll see. And that change is a new skill, which allows you to load 3 Salami at once. For those who haven't played Six Pistols, Salami makes it so that way your loaded pistols do, like, a lot more damage. I think it's more than double. What this change is going to do is basically make it so that way every single time you have loaded pistols, they'll almost always, if you're playing correctly, have Salami loaded, which will mean that you need to do significantly less damage and hit the enemy significantly less to beat them. I think this change should help Six Pistols a lot in 1v1s and make it even more annoying in team modes. So wonderful, just what we needed. And the other thing on Six Pistols is that if you miss while having some pistols loaded, you won't lose all of them, you'll only lose half of what you had loaded, which should reduce the frustration when either your pistols decide to just give up and go backwards, or if you just miss because you're not perfect. There was also a bug fix where, for whatever reason, you could block the first shot, but the redirects were unblockable, and that's been fixed. Probably my second favorite list of changes, and that's for Star Platinum. The first is probably the biggest, and it's that stand jump was replaced with Ground Slam. For those who don't know, Ground Slam actually used to be on Star Platinum, and it's technically still around. Well, now it's in the game, but it was still around on the Prime Jotaro raid boss. At the end of the day, stand jump didn't really do anything for this stand. All it did was make it easier to run away, and Star Platinum felt a little bit weak before. So the introduction of a true block break that's an AoE ground slam is really good and has helped the stand a lot. On top of that, the Starfinger cooldown has been decreased. I think this is a typo because I'm pretty sure the cooldown used to be 17 seconds and it's now down to 10 seconds. This change was made because Starfinger really doesn't get you a whole lot most of the time, and Star Platinum of the World has Arm Jab, which is basically just Starfinger but better, and that was on a 10-second cooldown, and people didn't really have any complaints about that. So we decided to make Starfinger have a significantly lower cooldown to sort of match up with that and make it more fun to play. Because before, it felt like Star Platinum had a lot of downtime. Unlike King Crimson, where you could just keep pushing buttons, Star Platinum would often just sit there with no moves, relying entirely on M1s because all of its cooldowns were so long. Speaking of cooldowns, the Aura Kicks cooldown was also increased from 21 seconds to 15 seconds, which again is basically trying to make it so that way Star Platinum is more fun to play. And I think it is one of the most fun to play right now, at least in Mosh Pit. I was using it, I don't have the footage, but I was using it last night, and I was having an absolute blast with Star Platinum. There might just be a video coming out pretty soon, which is just me jumping into ones and playing Star Platinum. That's it, because this stand is super fun right now. I was having a great time. The world had some tiny stuff done to it. First was that the destructive power was increased to 4 to 5. Don't panic, this doesn't affect any of the moves, it's just your standard attacks, so M1s, barrage, that kind of thing. You're not going to be getting hit with like an 80 damage kick barrage or 70 damage knives or anything like that. This was just to put it in line with the World Over Heaven as well as Star Platinum, because for whatever reason Star Platinum had stronger M1s. It was at destructive power 5 and the world was at destructive power 4. I noticed that and I was like, that can't be right. So we've changed it. And the stand jump cooldown has been increased from 10 seconds to 25 seconds. This is a band-aid for right now. I think I'm allowed to say this. I don't think it's a huge leak, but the current plan is to replace stand jump just like with Star Platinum with another move, but I won't tell you what that is until hopefully it comes out. The last stand with balance changes was Killer Queen, and unfortunately, I've seen a fair amount of these in Moshpit, and good lord is Killer Queen annoying in Moshpit. First was Coin Bomb, which had its cooldown reduced to 25 seconds by default, and then obviously with the upgrades it's way lower. The end lag was lowered, the damage was increased, and the range was increased. Plant Bomb had its damage increased all the way up to 47, and its cooldown decreased to 15 seconds, so now it has a 15-second cooldown 47 damage move, which is pretty damn good. And finally, Face Explode has its damage increased. I think all of these changes help Killer Queen, but I also think that all of these changes don't help the fundamental problems of Killer Queen. So will this make Killer Queen a fun stand to play? Probably not. Will it be more playable? Yes. Would I have done it differently? Also yes. So I'm on board with the changes, but I also think they're a little bit of a shame. It goes either way. And that's about it for the update. I covered all the balance changes as well as the game mode, so I don't have anything else to say. I'm really happy with literally everything in here. I don't think there's a single balance change that was objectively bad. I think they all work out well. And the new game mode is super fun to play. So I'm hoping maybe with this I can convince a few of you to hop on and play yourself. Anyways, that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, or you have any feedback for the update or the game itself, you can feel free to leave it in the comments, as well as you're allowed to @ me on the TCA Discord or send me Discord DMs if you have things to say. As long as it's not just a total waste of my time, I will see it, even if I don't necessarily respond. Now, if you didn't enjoy the video, or you hate TCA because YBA is your lifeblood, dislike and send a bomb to my house, I don't know. With all that being said though, have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you guys next time.